Hey guys, David here and welcome to this video. In this video series I'm gonna walk you through how to get started with Fusion 360. I think it's one of the best free CAD systems out there, and it's actually not that hard to use once you know a bit of the tips and tricks and all the quirks that it has. So if you want to see how to get Fusion 360 for free, completely legal, you can check out my last video up here. And once you downloaded Fusion and you created your account, you're going to be greeted with this screen that you can see here. Also, when you log in for the first time, you're going to have this handy dandy little getting started box that shows you some of the things that you want to know when you get started right away. Now, I'm going to be working in millimeters here in this series, but you could also set this to inches. I wouldn't recommend using meters, centimeters or feet, because most of the stuff that you're probably going to be doing here is more detailed stuff. Now this series is going to be good no matter what you plan Fusion to use for. If you use it for 3D printing, which is my primary application, if you just want to use it for some modeling software, or if you want to use it for 3D machining or whatever, I'm just going to go over the basics, how to create shapes and all that kind of stuff. Now, one of the most important things at first, of course, is to know how to navigate. And to pan around, you want to click your middle mouse button and just drag the mouse around the screen. And that allows you to pan. If you want to zoom, you can just scroll in and out with your mouse wheel. And to orbit around the object, you press Shift and the middle mouse button and then drag your mouse around the screen. That allows you to orbit around. And those are basically all the main controls to look around your object. You also can see this little cube up here, which shows you which direction you're looking in. It shows you all your axes, and you can also click on these faces. For example, to get a top-down view, to get a view exactly from 45 degrees, or from the corner, which should allow you to get the view that you want. If you are somewhere and maybe you want to have like a direct frontal view, just click here on front and then you get that view. And then of course you can just use Shift and middle mouse button again to drag freely around. So let's go around some of the basic interface things. Now up here is your toolbar. This is where you're gonna select everything to create your objects, sketches and stuff like that. This window here and this drop down is for all the sketching needs. These are 2D drawings, which then later you can make into 3D objects or just leave it as 2D objects if you want to use them for your 3D machining or something like that. Then the next column over is going to be to create 3D objects, either out of your 2D drawings or just straight up boxes, cylinders or spheres. This allows you to just plain extrude, which just takes the 2D drawing and pulls it into 3 dimensions. Revolve, which is the same thing except that it goes around an axis, which you can see here very well on the thing. Sweep, which is more involved. Instead of going around an axis, it goes along a path. Or loft, which goes between 2 shapes. There are also rip and web, but you're not going to use these very often. You can also create threads directly in here, which is very nice, as in many other programs that's quite difficult. And this mirror button down here you're also going to use quite often, as you can take an object and then mirror it, which is basically what it says on there, so why am I even explaining that? Then the third column here is to modify your 3D object. Some stuff is like fillets, that's to round over the coordinates. You have chamfer to add like a 45 degree on the corner. There's some other stuff down here. Scale, to scale it up and down. Combine, which you can take 2 different objects and make it into one. Also splitting a body or a face, you can use a plane to split your object into 2 objects, and some other stuff down here as well. Assemble is more fancy stuff when you want to make like actual working models that you can like have movement and stuff like that, but you're not going to use that at first. Construct is to have different planes, and you can create planes that are offset from each other and stuff like that. But I'm going to go into detail with that one later. It's not that important at first. Inspect is kind of handy if you want to create something to spec. You can just use that and easily use 2 different points or line in 3 dimensions on your model, and then you get all the statistics, how long it is, what the angle is, and stuff like that. Here is if you want to insert like pictures, which I'm gonna go into a separate video, which is really handy as you can like create sketches directly from a picture with in the background. Make is where you're gonna export your model if you want to do it for 3D printing. And you can also, although Fusion has many features already, create add-ins and scripts here. But you're not gonna use that at first. I haven't ever used that so far. That's the main toolbar for your things. Then here, this button all the way on the left is to switch between the different interfaces. You have model here, which is where you're probably going to spend the most time at first. The other things that you might want to do is animation, if you want to animate stuff. Cam, which is when you want to machine your part with like a CNC machine. There are also stuff like simulation, which is like super fancy. You can create like a drawing, which looks like an industry drawing that looks super fancy. You can impress everybody with that directly from your design. You can create sheet metal and patches and all that fancy stuff. But in the beginning, you're just gonna stay in the modeling environment. And that's all you gotta know. Then here is basically your file browser. Now the way that it works in Fusion is that you have your project, which is like a big overarching thing. Then inside of a project, you can have different components, which are like different parts, but they can still have multiple bodies, which are the individual object. Like a cube can be a body. And a component can either be like one single cube, or it can be many different cubes that don't have to be connected to each other, but they can be inside of one component. That is kind of confusing in the beginning, I know, and I still myself make mistakes all the time with that I don't create a separate component. But as long as you keep your design simple and you aren't like designing a machine in this program, then you probably don't even have to worry about that. What's also going to be there is your different bodies are going to be listed there. You can select them there, hide them and unhide them with the little light bulb here. You can also see that for the origin here, and your sketches are also going to be there. So that's how you navigate between the different things. Then down here, this long bar, which is empty at the moment, this is basically a timeline. Now, Fusion offers a very interesting thing that you aren't just like making changes and these changes are like final. You can just go back and either just go back like you will go back in any other program, but you can also just make a change to a thing you did earlier. Like if you extruded a cube 15 millimeters, then you did a whole bunch of stuff, but then you realized, oh shoot, I should have done 20 millimeters. Then you can just go back to that single step and change it from 15 to 20 millimeters, and it's gonna go through all the other steps automatically. And that's really, really handy. If you screw up somehow or you don't know something in the beginning, you can just go back later and you don't have to do a whole lot manually. And you also can like play through the animation to see a fun show how your model got built. And down here in the middle, you can see different modes, where you can be in. Main thing you might want to change here is display settings, visual style. You can change between wireframe, shaded with visible edges, shaded with hidden edges, and shaded. I'm gonna go into it in a different tutorial a bit closer. And these are basically different ways to look at your model. And some show through walls, others don't show through walls, and stuff like that. You can also like change like your layout grid if you want to show that. if you want to snap to the grid and stuff like that, down here. And down here in the bottom right corner, you can just change some stuff that's probably not gonna ever be of your concern. This button here, do not capture design history, basically turns off this timeline, which there's no real reason for you to do, as it's super handy. Except if you're working with meshes, if you're like importing STL files. But that's probably way over your head and you don't have to worry about that at the moment. And in the top right corner is basically your account central. You can go to your account you can change the preferences, helps up here, and stuff like that. Inside of the preferences, you can change a whole bunch of stuff for the program, but you don't really need to worry about that right now. So that's been it for the basic overview. You can check into the next tutorial where I'm gonna go into your first design.